entering into a space of consciousness allows you to be preventative. It allows you to learn a level of wisdom and knowing, enter into a space of surrender that allows you to, as you progress forward, move through life with less burden, less effort, less discomfort, less suffering. So even though you know a wonderful way how to end suffering within your life, which is by letting things come to death that are no longer sustainable or are no longer sustaining themselves, the other side of the equation is for me to teach you how to go through life without accumulation of what then needs to be released. That's the ultimate, is it not? If you live life without an accumulation of what then needs to be released, at some point all that was once accumulated is released, and you enter a far more steady state of interaction within the field of life. And so I would like to take tonight to talk about how we preventatively work with life to not accumulate what then needs to be released. And if I get to it tonight, fine. If not, then I'll finish this concept of this teaching next time, which is where I talk about the highs and lows. And if I get to that tonight, then fine. If not, then we'll get to that next time. And then upon that being concluded, then I'll listen to awareness and we'll go from there. But I know we talked about this time being when I was going to finish it, but I'm being awakened to things that I'm meant to teach you in between every time I teach you, and so I need to just always be open to that kind of spontaneous plan of change. That's what life's all about. So, how do you live life without accumulating anything that needs to be released? It's actually quite simple. Simple in theory. Difficult in practice. Until you realize that you have no what?
Choice.
That the illusion of choice creates the suffering. The way to live life without accumulating anything that needs to be released is to live life with absolutely no expectation of anything you think might happen or will happen happening. Now, it's not unusual for this space, but I will rub against some of your held beliefs, some of them very, very cherished. And I will rub against the belief that you have, some of you, that you should have dreams and goals. And these dreams and goals give you points of motivation and points of purpose. And if your dream or your goal is to be in a space of absolute balance with life, and if your dream and your goal is to be in a space of unconditional love, acceptance, peace, and compassion with every single experience you will ever have from now to infinity, then that dream and that goal is appropriate. Any other dream or goal is, in essence, a failure waiting to be experienced that will then have to be let go of. Well, how do you live life without any expectations? How do you live life? Well, how do you motivate yourself? What's the purpose of doing things? Well, it's the practice. It is not what I do, it is the space that I do it from. I'm not against doing, but I'm not in favor of doing to substantiate a purpose and a reason for living. Because relatively speaking, when you look at what we're doing, it's nothing. We are not making the planet orbit around the sun. We are not making the sun move in perfect harmony with the universe. We are not doing anything. So to have a dream that's based in self or ego is silly. Because unless the forces, remember, and we talked about this, remember those unknown forces that create matter and create movement? Unless those unknown forces are completely in harmony with what you want to happen, happening, is it going to happen? when you believe it's going to happen, the way you think it's going to happen. Yes or no? No, it's not. And that leads to disappointment. And then disappointment leads to bitterness, leads to a feeling of instability, which then can lead to anxiety about the future. What does the future hold? It holds the same thing it always held. An infinite number of experiences with an infinite number of variables happening in an infinite number of ways, all the time. Does that sound like a field that you want to have expectations of? I mean, if you want to constantly be disappointed, then it's ripe to do that. But to me, it's even more ripe for choiceless surrender. And that's, as you know, as you've heard me talk throughout the last weeks I've spoken to you, that is the choiceless, when you get to the end of the illusion of choice, that's what there is. There is a surrender into this field. And then once you accept that this field is really this, it isn't the blue sky, it's the infinite sky. You can be with that space of infinite possibility for how long? Forever. Infinitely. I'm not here to teach you how to live your life in the moment. I'm here to teach you how to live your life forever. Because the moment's the moment, but forever's all-inclusive. So, you cannot have any expectation of what's going to happen. Now, whether you want to realize it or not, if you sit and just reflect with me for a second, most of what's guided you, in life has been expectations you've had of your life. Dreams you've had. Belief systems you've had of what your life is supposed to be. Okay? And I would just love to see a show of hands. How many people's lives in this room, which we have a wonderful sampling of a diverse population here, okay? Wonderful. How many people in this room's life has been exactly what they expected it to be? Just raise your hand. Come on. I can't. Okay, for the record, I can't see anyone's hand up. And if this were the only chance you had to experience life, and it just happened to be in the stage of consciousness you're in, how would you all feel about that experience if that's really what it was? Would you feel a little frantic at times? A little fearful at times? A little overwhelmed at times? And with those feelings, again, we're talking about those feelings again, but now we're not talking about it regarding what we need to let go of. We're talking about how they have shaped our need to dream and have goals. They haven't only shaped our experience, they've shaped our future. Because we want to have a future experience that doesn't have those feelings. So we create an illusion, a dream that we work towards endlessly that will then be all-inclusive. Kind of the song I played with purpose, some of you heard. That's the real thing that we're working through now. But that's metaphorically, it's this place of heaven, this place of milk and honey, this place where all your dreams come true, where everything's just perfect and everyone's getting along great together, and we're all just, skipping along. It ain't gonna happen. The truth that these teachings give us is a piece of that same magnitude in things just the way they are. Because it is an inner space that when you live in it allows you to see the outer space. Not just in the moment, not just in reflection, but in the future. In the future. So, the emotions you've had about your life and the uncomfortable feelings you've experienced have created emotions that have shaped you to create dreams and goals in which those uncomfortable feelings would no longer be necessary. Okay, and it's called, that's more of like a Darwinian way of evolving. this is uncomfortable, so I'm going to dream this is the way I want it to be, because this doesn't have any of this stuff. And then I'm gonna do what I need to do to get there. And then once I'm there, then I'm gonna do it again. 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 What the teachings that have come through us and aware to us teach us, though, that is, if we practice the fundamentals, we don't have to go through it in stages, linearly. We don't have to go through it. Okay, I'm there. Dream it again. I'm there. Dream it again. Because the dream is the dream I spoke of in the beginning, is it not? Is that not the ultimate dream? To be in a space of unconditional love, peace, acceptance, and compassion with every single moment in your life from now until forever and ever. Amen. Isn't that the dream? If it isn't your dream, there's the door. Or if you're not willing to make it your dream, there's the door. Because you're in the wrong place. That's the dream. And the fun part is, that's the reality. That is not something we have to get through anymore because we have been uncomfortable, disappointed, let down. It's the place we can come to because it is complete choiceless surrender. When you know it's the only place you want to end up, why go through all the steps in between? Why wean yourself off of something that makes you feel uncomfortable and creates sickness and disease and conflict, unnecessary death, not normal death, not harmonious death, unnecessary suffering and pain. Why wean off of that, everybody? I'm giving you the teachings that were given through me for us all to just move. Not because we're uncomfortable, but because we see the truth in what it offers. And it offers us a way to practice living life eternally that leads to the dream, which is the dream we talked about, which is really the reality. And all we have to do is continue to focus on those principles. Be in a space of unconditional love, acceptance, peace, and compassion with every single moment of our life. And practice. Practice, 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 practice. And let everything else die. Let all our dreams die. Let all our goals die. Let all our materialistic possession drives die. Trust me, you will have what you need. Because when you achieve this space of consciousness that I've been blessed to live in, you don't need anything but that space. And do I appear to have possessions around me? Of course I do, but all of you who know me really know how much they really mean to me. You don't. The practice is what guides my life. The practice allows these things to be here. If the practice ever didn't, I would miss having talks in nice rooms, but I wouldn't miss out on space that I'm in. This just so happens to be included in this space right now. Right now. Do I know how long that will last? No. Do I care? No. That's why I'm taking advantage of it now. So how do you live without expectations? Well, it's easy. When you realize that expectations and judgments cause pain and cause confusion and conflict, it's easy to let them go. But the fun part is when you start going into moments without expectation. When you start going into moments accepting things are all going to be what they are. When you start going into moments and living in the moment that you're moving through in a space of intuition. And we're going to go right back to that. I'm going to show you how that intuition, how looking at things infinitely, through your third eye, through your intuitive sense, allows you to live without expectation. When I look at anyone in this room intuitively, I know exactly what you're capable of, and I know exactly what you're not capable of. And I accept exactly where you're at just the way you are. I don't have a second opinion of you. I have a truthful opinion of you. It's the truth. It's where you're at. And I'm letting that reflect as I'm being with all of you on a moment-by-moment basis. I'm not trying to understand who you are. I'm not trying to understand what you can do for me. I'm not trying to understand how we're going to get along or how it's going to work. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just with you. I'm not expecting someone not to cough. I'm not expecting someone to cough. There's coughing. In that space, I am not thinking as somebody, oh, geez, it's coughing. I don't want to cough. Who cares? There's coughing. There's death. There's suffering. There's ignorance. It's there. All the time. So to have an expectation of living and when those things don't exist because I put some dream out there, that's absolutely insane. That's why the dream, the reality that these teachings bring us to, allow us to be in that space no matter what's going on around us. Why? Because no matter what's going on around us, we don't expect anything other than that to be going on around us. I always talk about these funny sayings, and one of these days, we've already got them, but we'll get them together and get them off to you guys, because those little Keithisms are really funny and they're really good. They really are. They're really just kind of comical. And one of them is, when is the last time God asked you your opinion about life? When is the last time that the creation, the force behind all creation said, well, how do you think it should be? Basically says, this is it. You got to trust that the force, all-knowing force of all things, knows what it's doing. When you accept that, and you live in that space of knowing that this is an eternal experience that you're in, and that you really don't have the right to have any expectations of how it's supposed to be, that you must start in a place of unconditional love and acceptance with the experience. You have to start there. When you start there, then you can be taught more easily and with less resistance. But as long as what you're being taught by life is conflicting with what you think you know about it, you're screwed. Which is why we talked about allowing things to come to death. When all of you that believes life should be something different than it is dies, congratulations. Then all of you that thinks it should be something different going forward, that has to die. And when everything about you that thought it should be something different going forward than it is, and thought it should be something different than it was, all dies, all that's left is someone going, this is great. This is great. Wow, look at that. Oh, look how that cool. Look how that worked out. Wow, look how life did that. Wow, look how that just happened to be just in the right space and time. Wow, look at that. And what you start to see is an unbelievable order that you will not see if you have your own opinion. You'll think there's coincidences or synchronicity, moment of synchronicity. It's all perfect. You have no clue why, but when you don't need a clue why, you can see how it's all perfect. And when you see how it's all perfect, you don't need a clue why, because you just see it's all perfect. When it's all perfect, you don't care if you understand it, because you know you never will. And all these awarenesses lead you to not have expectations of something you can't understand. How can you have an expectation of something you can't understand? And let's really break this down into interpersonal relationships to make it founded. Otherwise, you think I'm out there in the ether somewhere. But it applies on a microcosm. It really does. Okay? Do you really think you understand the person sitting next to you or the person behind you? Do you really think you understand them on a core level? I mean, I've been married. How long have you two been married?
40.
Another couple.
40.
40?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that you completely understand your husband? Okay, that would be
No.
Yeah. And would you say you completely understand your wife?
Entirely.
You think you completely understand?
Absolutely.
Ooh, it's interesting.
And herein lies the problem. I have been married I've known my wife for probably 20 years. I have no clue who she is. have no clue who she is. I don't know her infinite past. I don't know all the lifetimes she's come from. I don't know what's going on in her head most of the time. I'm completely clueless. And I used to try and fix that. Isn't that insane? I used to try and fix that person. I used to try and tell her what was wrong, because I, at that point, knew I'm going through the same thing you guys are. I'm just 1 millisecond ahead, in some things. And I tried to fix her, which was absolutely insane. And that's when a lot of the earlier works came out that I said, was just be your husband. It's okay, I'm here, I love you, I accept you. Whatever you're going through is fine, it's okay. Now my wife tells me it's like living with a fortune cookie. She says, living with you is like living with a fortune cookie. Every time she asks me something, this phrase comes out of my mouth that she calls a fortune cookie. And she has no clue who I am either. But if we're going to live in a space with each other and with life, we have to learn how to be with things we have no idea what's going on with them. We have to. We have to accept that we really, really don't understand who people are. Because they constantly change. And we really don't understand what life really is because it constantly changes. So as I bring all these things up, again, how do you get along with the field that's constantly in this state of flux? Well, as best as I've been able to accept from what I really consider to be an amazing source of truth is, guess what? You practice being in a space of unconditional love, acceptance, peace, and compassion. You don't focus on what it is you're dealing with. You don't focus on any of this first. You focus on where are you at and having a relationship with it. Period. And whatever happens because you're in that place and having a relationship with it is exactly what was supposed to happen, and it couldn't have gone any better. It couldn't have gone any better. And that completely releases you from having any expectations of how life is supposed to go going forward. Because the truth is, if you're in that space, it couldn't have gone any better. And what that allows you to experience regarding the future is you don't have to care how life's going to go. You just practice that simple practice all the time. Everywhere. And then you know that life's going as good as life can possibly go. And I use good in kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's going in the space of the highest good. And do you have any clue why it's happening? Honestly, do you have any clue why it's happening when you're doing that? Not really. But what else can you do? Everyone, a lot of teachings are, they put this kindly and politely. When I was being shown these teachings, and I originally thought that I was going to be somebody who was going to help explain, help people have a relationship with God that would help enhance their relationship they had to their religion, or help them have a relationship with God that if they didn't have religion, like I was going to connect people to that source. And I remember sitting there and just laughing when God said, no. I just want you to teach people how to have a relationship with life. Just teach them that. Because that got lost somewhere along the way. Everyone's having a relationship with life, trying to have a relationship with me, and they're trying to have a relationship with life by believing in me. And there's a huge disconnect. Because I am completely intangible, unknown, unseen, but affecting everything. And life is just this thing that seems to be just ripping them and pulling them and killing them and taking people they love and bringing them stuff and taking them stuff. And so you just got to help them understand how to have a relationship with life. And tell them I'm the source of it, but just focus on life. And I was like, oh. That's when the whole concept of practice came to me. We all need to practice life. Just practice. Practice interfacing with something we have no control of, and we don't understand, and we have no choice about. How do you interface with that field? Well, that's life. How do you interface with it? The practice. And you practice, and you practice, and you practice, and you get better at it, and you get better at it, and you get better at it. and you get better and better and better and better and more and more and more and more in level of peace, acceptance, compassion, right? Okay? And then what do you start to see as a result of that relationship with life? You start to see God. I am struggling if I do not see God in a moment. That's how obvious it is to me. The signs of divinity are everywhere. But I didn't get there by just going, ah, and God bless people. If that's how they get there, and it's just like that, you know what? Then God bless them. But for most of us, the experience is difficult. And for me, that's why my belief in God is not based on a faith or a hope. It is a real observation, pragmatically based in a rational, conscious experience. Because the odds of the alignment of things that I witness happening with my sensory system is beyond randomness. The ridiculous amount of times I see that order just go, it's like, it's consistent. It is completely consistent. It is there when there is a life being born. It is there when there is a life changing into a death. It is there when things are coming into my life. It is there when things are leaving. It is there. But I could never see it in those spaces because I was so full of emotion, expectation, loss. Which is why the first part of these teachings I was just hammering it into your heads about these feelings and why we have to let them go. Because unless you come to that space of unconditional love and acceptance, which is far more difficult when you're having a lot of emotions, you can't get to the point where you see the divinity in the order all the time. And in that divinity and order, you then have no choice but to believe in the source of that divinity and order, which is the source of God, which is something we cannot comprehend. But we can see the order. And if we see the order, we're not believing in God, we're knowing God. We're knowing God. We're knowing that force. And you can start to have amazing, not emotionally, an amazingly intellectual, intuitive relationship with the force of creation. Because you realize it ain't personal. Sometimes it's going to seem like things are going your way if you have an opinion, and sometimes it's going to seem like they're not if you have an opinion. That's why I don't have an opinion. When they're going this way, I assume it's in the highest good. And when they're going that way, I assume it's in the highest good. That way, it's all good. Remember, get rid of the pylons. This has all been in my knowing as I look at the world and I've looked at religions and I've looked at teachings. There's been so much confusion about the basic process of how this is done. And the fundamental teachings in how to do it are in every religion. But they involve a different aspect of God, and somehow just teaching how to live life is not looked at as a separate entity, and it gets everybody all caught up in how they believe in God. And instead of saying, well, wait a minute, we might not yet believe we all have the same God in common. Okay, we might not all yet believe that. Which, at some point, it's obvious. But to me, there's no reason to wait until we all finally understand that there's one creator of the universe. We all have the experience of life in common, do we not? Well, let's just start with unifying ourselves as different energies of life based on the fact that we all have a tangible experience in common. And for us all to enjoy that experience in the highest good, we should all live in that experience with the same unifying principles that take into account the same undeniable truths and rules. And then when you get into a relationship with somebody or something or an experience, you're just with it. And however it goes, you can go, it was interesting. You can learn, you can see the divinity, you can see how it fit into your life in some way, or if it didn't, you can see the value in it, and you can just let it go and go on to the next one. And the definition, as I've told you, of heaven on earth, of eternal peace, is when you can be with any experience that you have in life, and you're in it in a space of unconditional love, acceptance, and peace, you are in heaven on earth. Trust me.
that's where I'm at almost all the time. I don't care what happens. It's all just practice. And it doesn't matter what's happened. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I'm locked into the practice. Which is why I'm giving away the name of the book to all of you. The name of the book will be the practice. Metaphorical, isn't it amazing? The name God gave me for the book I'm going to write. Isn't that beautiful? The practice. Profound. Just profound. Just. And when you hear the name like that and you look at who it's coming through, doesn't that just strike you on so many levels? That so many people are going to think the practice is about my practice. Okay? And in a way it was about the practice, but the practice led to the practice. And the practice led to the practice. And the practice is just a practice. But people will think the practice is about Dr. Keith Jordan. Really, the practice isn't about Dr. Keith Jordan at all. Practice is about all of us just practicing. So, don't you want to take that title? I'm giving it away. Yeah. So that's going to be the name of the book. That's what all these teachings will be put in. Because that's all we're in right now. It's just a practice. So, don't take any of it too seriously. It's just a practice. And how long will we be practicing what? Forever. Forever. So just, what I'm saying makes sense. Practice it. Give it a try. All of you who have seen me and practiced what I've taught you, I think you've found that it really works. It works. It just works. And it's so simple that it's hard to believe that it so profoundly works. And I know a lot of you have gone through what a lot of people would consider to be a lot of amazing things since you've seen me, tough things, loss, birth, death, all the kinds. And I can tell you from seeing all of you who have seen me through those processes that the practice has helped with all of them. Practice isn't about making anything go away. It's about practice. And in that space, things are in the highest space of good that they can be. And you're as open as you can possibly be to the divinity and synchronicity that life will inevitably show you and the direction it will lead